What up, nerds? My name is Leslie Smith. Welcome to the Nerdy Narrative, where today I will be talking through my reading and reviewing process. When I call this a process, I do mean it is a process. When you're someone like me who has been an avid reader ever since they could remember learning how to read, you look for ways to just keep the magic of reading alive, to keep it fun and an enjoyable process. And so that is what I've done for myself. Of course, it is an ever-evolving process. The process that I'm going to share with you today has been the one that I've been using for the last several months. I really feel that I have it dialed in and just honed to what I feel is perfection. And of course, now that I've said this and now that I'm making this video, I'm probably going to find some way to just tweak it and make it even better. All of that aside, let's get into my reading and reviewing process. Of course, step number one, choosing a book. For this step, there's absolutely no rhyme or reason. I have a want to read list a mile long, and that list gets added to and updated daily. I have a ton of books on my shelves that I haven't read for the first time yet, in addition to the ones that I have read several times and I want to reread. When you have thousands of books you want to read, it can be overwhelming. I do help myself with that anxiety by making a monthly TBR. This TBR is flexible, but it does usually contain some commitment reads, books that I've accepted from authors in exchange for reading and reviewing, as well as ARCs for traditionally published books and a monthly Patreon read. I do typically try to knock out my review reads early in the month, and then that way the rest of the month can just be whatever this bookworm wants to read. So I go by my monthly list and I choose a book from there. If I'm having trouble deciding between the ones that I've scheduled for the month, I'll go to my Patreon and get them to help me. Whether it's giving them 5 first lines of the book and letting them vote for the one they like best, or stacking the books on my desk and having them simply pick a number between 1 and whatever. So while choosing a book can be difficult when you want to read 1,000 books, it still can also be fun. And I keep that fun going into step number 2, which is to design a page in my reading journal for this book. I am very old-fashioned in that I love pen and paper. Yes, I do keep up with all of my reads and Goodreads, but I love the experience of writing down my thoughts. I used to write down a couple of thoughts after each chapter, but that was just interrupting my reading enjoyment to do so. So I reverted to just writing down feelings, thoughts, something that I wanted to make sure that I conveyed in my written review. With reading being my favorite hobby, I'm always going from one book to another. Designing a journal page allows me a buffer between books. The act of designing a new page just sort of gives me a clean slate, a physical representation of starting something new. Plus, it gives me something I enjoy looking at while I'm reading the book and making notes. It makes me want to take notes, which is really important if you're a reviewer like me. So I've chosen my book and I've made my journal page for notes. I'm ready to read. But before I do that, there's just a couple of extra things that I want to do to enhance the experience and make it the best that it can be. As you can see from my background, all of the books, you can probably guess that I like to read physically, and I do. I love the feel of a book in my hands. I love the smell of a book. You know, just to me personally, there's just no comparison. I am someone that I will read something, and if I feel it ties into something else, I want to go back through, I want to read it again. Sometimes I'll read the same paragraph or chapter over and over. I also like to tab favorite moments or quotes, things that I want to include in my written review. I'm not a big time tabber. I'm just an occasional tabber because I do not leave these in. They will pull the print off of your pages if you leave them in. So I don't leave them in because I don't like harming my books. There is absolutely nothing better than a good floppy paperback in your hands. But a couple of ways that I have found to enhance my overall enjoyment of a book is to also secure the audiobook and the ebook from my library. Now you might be thinking, why do you need all 3? Here's why. I read a lot of really good books. I am really good at choosing books that I'm gonna love. And when I love a story, I do not want to get out of it. I don't want to stop. How many of you can relate? You've had a book that you wanted to stay up to finish so bad, but your eyes wouldn't stay open. It's happened to you, right? So the method that I have found that works best for me is to get all 3 and use them in conjunction with one another. Here's how I do that. First thing in the morning, I get up, First cup of coffee, I sit down and I read for an hour. When I need to walk the dogs, I pick up right where I left off by listening to the audiobook. Then at that point, I do have to stop and go to work. But at lunchtime, those headphones are right back in my ears while I walk the dogs on their lunch walk, plus while I am making and eating lunch. Of course, after that, it's back to work. But as soon as I knock off for the day, I still a few moments with the physical copy again, until it's time to walk the dogs and make dinner. Again, I've got the audiobook going. And then cleaning up after dinner, audiobook. Taking a shower, audiobook. Yes, I listen to an audiobook in the shower. You should try it sometime. After my shower, I'm back with the physical book in my hands, and then usually I like to go to bed and read for an hour before I call it quits for the night, which I will do with my Kindle, which is where the ebook comes in handy because my Kindle is backlit. That's my secret for reading a lot. It's not that I read fast. I just take every opportunity I can to read my books, and I do that by using all three methods in conjunction with one another. Once I have finished the book, the next order of business is to write a review, and I do try to do that as soon as possible, whether it be that night or if time doesn't allow, first thing the next morning while everything is still fresh. When it comes to writing a review, I don't have a set structure that I use. I do have a list of review points that I'll look at for reference and direction, but I typically just shoot from the hip. My reviews are going to tell you a little bit of what the book is about, and the reason why I do this is because I post in many different areas that don't always include the book description, so I want to make sure people have an idea of what this book is about. And then I'm going to tell you about my experience reading it and what my thoughts were. Once I have the written review completed, I then proceed to share it everywhere that I can. Sometimes I write the review before the book has been published, so that limits the places that I can post my review, but I just put a note on my calendar on date of release to go back and share it to the other places that I couldn't share it. If you know of any other good review sites that I can share my reviews on, please list those in the comments down below. Reviews are absolutely crucial to so many different types of people in the reading world. Reviews help readers choose books. It helps publishers get the word out, which in turn help the authors, especially our indie or self-pubbed authors, small presses. Reviews are so important. And one of the last things that I like to do if I have a physical copy of the book is to take a picture of it to put on social media or to accompany my review on my website. To me, that's just more attractive than just pulling the cover off of Goodreads, which is what I end up having to use when I don't have a physical copy of the book. On occasion, after all of this, if I feel really strongly about a book, I'll make a dedicated video for it and put here on the channel for you all. Some of you might be a little overwhelmed with this process and think that it is a lot of work to put into reading a book, and it is, but this is a hobby that I love. All of the things that I do in this process serve a purpose, and that is to make sure I am having the best reading experience possible. And that fun extends beyond just my personal reading enjoyment. It extends into the reviewer process. It makes the reviewing process easy and enjoyable and helps me personally to avoid burnout. So I hope you've enjoyed hearing about my reading and reviewing process today, whether you just find it interesting to know how it is I do things, or if you're a reviewer yourself and looking to find a way to streamline your own process. And now it's y'all's turn. I would love for you to share in the comments below what your reading process is, what your review process is if you have one. Let's network and see what we can do to improve our reading enjoyment and share the love of reading at the same time. It is my sincerest hope that I shared something that you're going to be able to utilize and make your reading adventure so much more fun. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will catch you in the next one.